Okay, good morning to everybody. I work at the Institute of Biometeorology. The title of my presentation is Precision Farming and Agro-meteorology. Okay, precision farming or precision agriculture can be defined as an integrated information and production-based farming system that is designed to increase long-term, site-specific and whole farm production, efficiency, productivity and profitability, while minimizing the unintended impacts on the environment. And the objective of precision agriculture are optimizing the production efficiency, optimizing quality of products, and while minimizing environmental impacts and risks. The practical implementation of precision agriculture can be done using new technologies, such as georeferencing technology, as GPS. Another interesting is crop, soil and climate monitoring, and for these a lot of sensors must be used for in situ, especially, and on-the-go measurement for crops, soil, climate variables monitoring. And agro-meteorology enter in this activity, one of the practical implementation of precision agriculture. Another point, the mapping. And for mapping, in the last year, from remote sensor data from satellite to now the unmanned aerial vehicle used to detect very precise data on the state, ecophysiology state of the crop, and combined with geostatistical analysis, produce the information that can be used by decision support systems that are systems able to give and to determine the optimum management strategy, especially the site-specific strategy. And once giving this information, the differential application using variable rate technology, such as tractors, actuators, so a lot of very new technology. So in terms of putting different pesticide or some irrigation, different practical implementation in agriculture. So the precision agriculture can be defined as in 3 steps. The first step is acquiring data from different platforms, so remote sensing, airplane, unmanned aerial vehicles, from meteorological stations, wireless sensor network, in situ and on-the-go measurement. Then a second step about the data analysis, and for producing input information for the third step, so action with variable rate technology for site-specific differentiation and intervention. Why the precision agriculture? Because agricultural system characterized by 9 variability within the same field. So it's very important to monitor this heterogeneity to allow this site-specific management in order to maximize quality and sustainability of the crop production. And meteorological variability, both at the mesoscale, so scale, single plant level, very important role during the crop ripening process and to the ecophysiology of the crop. And I think research in agro-meteorology required to monitor a large amount of data, and I think compromise has to be made between the type and the amount of measurements, and also the resources available for collecting this large amount of data. And don't forget, yes, the quality of measurement, the importance of quality of measurement. Okay, quality of measurement. My question is, yes, the first thing, and I think one of the objective of metrology, to ensure the quality of measure in terms of resolution, uncertainty, sensitivity, accuracy. And I find a very, very interesting project. Maybe you can give some results carried out by INRIM and IMA for CNR. And the aim is to correlate weather parameter and better solutions in terms of sensors and calibration methods for good and appropriate data used for pest and disease forecasting model. I think it's one of the issue of a very, very large project, very interesting. So, one of the objectives of agro-meteorology is to monitor how many about the pest and disease model, how to the appropriate usage of pesticide for this. And so I think my question is we have to find a compromise between the quality of measurement and the amount and also the ability of sampling about this, because agricultural experiments require multiple sites and a lot of replicate nodes to satisfy observational and also the statistical requirements. So the need of this large amount of measurement could be cost prohibitive in a lot of experiments, and there are a different scale of quality of measurement from international standard to very, very cheaper sensors. And I want to show you an experiment. We made an experiment in vineyards, in 2 vineyards, in order to monitor agro-meteorological parameters, solar radiation, air temperature and relative humidity in 2 vineyards using 2 wireless sensor networks. So a coordinator master station outside the vineyard, and a set of peripheral nodes inside within the field with wireless communication. So hourly interval data were sent to the coordinator and then to a remote central server in my institute, able to storage, acquiring and processing data. All these devices are characterized to be low cost and open source, with a software open source, so the cost was very cheap. And the sensor were very, very simple. So for the solar radiation sensor, a silicon photodiode is contained in a customized telephone structure and positioned inside the canopy. And air temperature and relative humidity with the low-cost digital temperature with a capacitive humidity sensor and a thermistor. So the aim of the experiment was to monitor the spatial variability in terms of different data from solar radiation, air temperature and relative humidity, using an experimental plan with 3 factors. With 3 factors with different levels. So the first factor was to the objective was to find differences between 3 levels of the factor of treatment. Treatment, in this case, different pruning methods. So one row with no pruning methods, with mechanical pruning and with manual pruning. The second factors with 2 levels in order to detect the differences between within-field meteorological data acquired by the node stations and outfield meteorological data with outside the station, the master station. And the third factor was to combine, to examine the differences between the border, so station placed at a distance of 25 meters from the border, and central station in a more central position. And all the nodes were equipped with 2 replicates for each sensors. And going on the results, in this table we can see for the solar radiation data the differences, the significant differences between these factors. For example, and this is daily average differences, so it's very significant. And for example, for the factor inside versus outside, we found 200 watt per square meters in daily average differences between the station placed inside the canopy outside the field. Okay, it's obvious because the vine canopy tend to alter the microclimate inside the vineyard. Okay, the grapevine, one of the challenge of agro-meteorology. And another result, the differences between the treatments, the pruning methods, and reach also 30 watt per square meter, also in daily average between the 2 extreme different pruning methods, no pruning and manual pruning methods. Another result for the air temperature. The first factor was the difference PP and SN are 2 fields placed closest in the same viticultural area, not in the same vineyard. But 1 degree on daily average were found between this field. And another interesting result between the border and central station. So 0.6 degree were found so for this different positioning of the station. And for relative humidity, maybe the results are more evident. Okay, for the not only but for the different pruning methods, but also between within field and outfield data. 7% on daily average of relative humidity between these different stations, and 11% we reach between those 2 treatments. So I think this result, this work showed a very interesting study between the macroclimate variability and mesoclimate variability. And because usually for models, also for pest and disease forecasting models, data were used from weather stations that maybe cannot reproduce the actual condition within the field, very, very different. And another good point after this work is the ability of sampling data, especially in vines, but also in agro-meteorological experiment, the ability of the positioning of the correct positioning of the sensor that can be produce very, very different results. So this model can be produce also different threshold about pest and disease alarm. And those significant differences within the same field were monitored thanks to 6 agro-meteorological stations for each field, with 2 replicates for each sensor. So maybe it's cost prohibitive if using sensors with international and national standards. Okay, we used very cheaper sensor, okay, calibrated with sensors are important and very good quality. And another things with data loggers on the system devices and open source, and I think it's another important cost. So my question is, I have a lot of questions for you about how to ensure appropriate measurement, because we have to take into account a lot of issues about sampling, cost, etc.